Starmer. The police took him off. They detained him all day. The case continues. His parents are desperate. He's 33 years old. His name is Oliver Smith. The thing is, he's got the mental age of a 10-year-old.
Right.
And the police are still taking it seriously. To my mind, cuts to the heart of everything that is wrong with modern Britain and everything that is wrong with modern policing. The police should drop this case. We've been desperately trying to get them to do that all day. They haven't even answered our inquiries. It's disgraceful.
Well, we'll get the full details of that with Kevin on the other side of the news. He's here between 7 and 9, and then what just happened between 9 and 10. I am back tomorrow morning at 10 o'clock. I will see you then. Thanks for your company.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
There you are. Good evening and welcome to the Political Asylum right here on Talk all the way to 10 o'clock. I'm your host, Kevin O'Sullivan, coming at you with 3 thrusting hours of unfiltered news, views and serious debate. It's your show too, so get on the phone and call me on 0344 499 1000, or you can send me a WhatsApp voice note on the same number and I guarantee I'll play your message out. I can't say fairer than that. The weekend starts now. Here's what's coming up. Last night, loving mum Angie Smith rang this show to reveal how 2 cops called at her home near Plymouth and carted off her 33-year-old son to interrogate him about his alleged hate crime of posting a death threat against two-tier Kia on Instagram. Oliver Smith was detained all day at the police station, and after his eventual release, pending further investigation, he continues to face potential charges. The thing is, Oliver, a lovely guy by all accounts, has the mental age of a 10-year-old. Efforts by this station to elicit an explanation for why Devon and Cornwall police have not dropped the case have met with no response. So, let me ask the question that 1 million people who watched my interview with Angie on social media today are also asking. What the hell is going on here? Why are the cops still taking this seriously, despite the fact Angie and her husband have made desperate attempts to explain that Oliver is a harmless man with the mind of a little child. Doesn't this outrageous situation sum up everything that's wrong with modern Britain and everything that's wrong with modern policing? Why has this country become a place where common sense goes to die? 0344 499 1000. In other news, it's Brexit's 5th birthday. Let's have a party. Keir Starmer is refusing to celebrate. Big surprise, since he's on a mission to betray the democratic decision of the British people to leave the sclerotic old red tape-obsessed European Union. Meanwhile, Nigel Farage promises, if you vote him in, to deliver Brexit properly, to deliver the Leave vote properly. Does that get your vote? 0344 499 1000. Plus, has anyone seen Kemi? Amid a fortnight of volcanic news, Keir's Southport cover-up, the immigration crisis, Labour's growth disaster, and so much more, the Tory leader made page 93 of the papers with her concerns about academy schools. Is she really up to the job of saving the sinking Conservative ship? I've got Pete Barnes with me here. He's shaking his head already, so stand by for a bit of a row between us. It's a tradition every Friday. 0344 499 1000. Plus, what's so wrong about Donald Trump criticising the diversity policy in the recruitment of air traffic controllers in America? After the Washington air crash tragedy, the political and media establishment seemed to be outraged by the president's DEI observations. Has he broken some sort of rule? If so, why shouldn't he? 0344 499 1000. Also tonight, the scourge of cancel culture and the disgraceful decision by Parliament, in my view, to ban a Holocaust exhibition because it was, and I quote, too political. Really? 0344 499 1000. All that and so much more. So don't go anywhere. Stick with me right here, right now, on Talk, the home of free speech and common sense. Let's spend Friday night together. I should also mention that at 9 o'clock we switch over to my TV show, What Just Happened. 60 minutes of sizzling debate, hilarious jokes, funny stuff, plus serious coverage of the current affairs agenda. So you won't want to miss any of that, will you? That happens at 9 o'clock, so stay tuned for that. As I always explain, if you want to watch it on telly, it's brilliant. You can see me in person. Obviously a massive bonus for all of you. But if you just want to listen to it, it's fine. It's very radio friendly. So that happens at 9 o'clock. But in the meantime, as I just alluded to, I'll be with Pete Barnes, a political strategist, conservative fanatic, for the next 2 hours as we go through some of the big stories of the day. So welcome aboard as always, Pete. Good to have you. First up, though, let's deal with this story. If you were listening last night, we took this call. Jaws dropped. We could hardly believe what was happening. Basically, Angie Smith and her family, husband Steve, I think they've got about 6 kids, but one of their kids is 33-year-old Oliver. He lives at home still, and there's a reason for that. He's got the mental age of a 10-year-old. By all accounts, lovely guy, happy guy, messes around online, and he posted something 5 months ago on Instagram about, it was a death threat to Keir Starmer. He doesn't like Keir Starmer. Well, who does, really? But death threats we don't condone. But he's got the mind of a little child. Of course, Angie and her husband Steve explained this. No, this, he's mentally impaired. You can't, Nevertheless, they carted him off to the police station, to Plymouth Police Station. They detained him all day, interviewed him. This was a hate crime, alleged hate crime. He still faces charge. Steve, the husband, went down and he said, come on, this is ridiculous. No. They knocked him back. They kept Oliver under interrogation all day. But luckily, by all accounts, he's not too traumatised. But you can imagine a guy like that being really, really traumatised. But he's obviously made of sterner stuff than that. And that's good to hear. But for God's sake, Why are they still grabbing hold of this case like a dog with a bone? Surely they should drop it. I mean, come on. I mean, this is just getting out of control. Well, we're going to bring Angie onto the show in just a second, and also we're going to be joined. He's over in Spain. You never know where this guy is. He's always globetrotting somewhere, but he's in Spain at the moment. But he's been kind enough to join us from there. He's our friend of the show, ex-Scotland Yard detective Mike Neville. So first of all, a warm welcome to Oliver's mum, Angie Smith. Thanks for joining us, Angie, and of course, welcome to Mike Neville. Well, Angie, thanks for coming on board, Angie.
Thank you so much.
We have hi, Mike. We have at this station today. We've reached out to Devon and Cornwall Police for an explanation for this, and obviously couched in our inquiries was, are you considering dropping this case? Or, to be honest with you, why haven't you dropped this case? But we've heard nothing back. Now, as I understand it, Angie, as you were saying to me last night, I'm assuming nothing has changed. This case still continues, and your son, Oliver, still faces potential hate crime charges. That's the situation, isn't it? Well, once again, I mean, how do you feel as a mother of a guy like this, that this is going on? I just think it's outrageous.
Yeah, well, once again, Kevin, thank you so much for having me back. Yeah. I mean, as I say, our main concern is for Oliver. As I said to you last night, he is loved and supported, and I won't let this drop, My concern is more, like I was saying to one of your producers earlier on today, is there are lots of people who might not, without wishing to sound condescending in any way, might not be able to stand up to this sort of thing. And so my concern covers a wide range of things. But what I do need to say to you is that I have subsequently found out that this complaint came from our intrepid Metropolitan Police.
So they saw Oliver's post on Instagram and alerted Cornwall and Devon and Cornwall Police to this horrendous hate crime. Now, look.
But meanwhile, can I just say that I have Jewish friends, very close Jewish friends in London, who since October the 7th have had to put their careers on hold and homeschool their children because the Met Police will not protect them and let them get to school safely.
I think what we're talking about there, Angie, is what is known as two-tier policing.
Oh, of course it's two-tier. Of course it is.
Well, let's bring Mike in, an experienced copper. I would suggest this wouldn't happen in his day, and it certainly wouldn't.
I've heard him speak. Hello, Mike.
And it certainly wouldn't happen if he was on the case. Are you there, Mike? Your thoughts on this first?
I'm here, yes.
What your thoughts on this? This is outrageous, isn't it?
It is outrageous, and it shows the waste of police time, but also the corruption that happens when you set targets. So Devon and Cornwall Police are in turmoil. They've had 3 chief constables in 18 months. They were criticised by Her Majesty's Inspectorate of Constabulary, who has said that their investigation of crime and the number of crimes they solve the word is inadequate. And what I suggest here, I know that the lady, that when she said that her son was, he has the mind of a 10-year-old, and the officer said, well, I have to speak to my sergeant. I've got no doubts that they really took him in because they can claim they detected a crime. So they're prepared to cause misery to a family, misery to a chap who's, severely mentally disabled, and his good family who've probably never been in trouble with the police before, just to, one, they can claim a detection. And here we get this stupid situation where the police are too busy policing tweets and not the streets, because I'm sure everybody in Devon and Cornwall would far rather those officers who came round to a house 5 months after something had been done were patrolling the streets, looking for thieves, burglars, rapists, and anybody else who causes misery to the community. And this needs to stop. But I'm afraid that under a Labour government who were obsessed with these things, the Tories were useless anyway, but with Labour, it's just going to get worse. So as a police officer, I was proud to be a Scotland Yard detective, but now it's almost like a running joke. Why are the police getting involved in all this? And the officers at the time, when they realised the man's disabilities, tried to sort of sort it out, but then the supervisors intervened. There was no need whatsoever to take him to the police station. It's absolutely ridiculous, and I feel sorry for the family. And as you say, police officers with my style, this would never have been done.
Where's the common sense in this, Mike? That's my question.
There is no common sense at all. You have got, as I say, two awful things coming together. One, this obsession with tweets and things online and threats that obviously, I'm going to, people who put after the Southport disorder, I'm going to burn down a mosque. These people are stupid. They said a vile thing, and they should have been given a warning instead of they putting in prison. But also, in addition to this obsession with online stuff, you've got this target-driven, where if you catch, you can claim, as I sent you earlier, the Home Office counting rules to say, the person's too disabled to be interviewed or whatever, and then they can claim that they've solved a case. And these two things have come together here, and I just feel sorry for the family. And I'm sure there's lots of police officers out there who work hard, face danger every day, deal with people with knives and guns, and they'd much rather not be dealing with this. It's the senior officers and the politicians who are forcing it.
It's ridiculous. Let's bring Angie back in. Angie, as you and your husband Steve tried to say to the two coppers that called at your house, and then I think Steve went to the Plymouth police station as well. Surely what you were saying to them is, look, come on. Oliver's got the mental age of 10. You shouldn't be taking this seriously. What was their response when you said that?
I didn't quite put it that politely at the time, but I did.
In effect, that's what you said.
But as a retired English teacher, I used a bit of good old Chaucer and Anglo-Saxon.
Well, why shouldn't you? But what was their response when you said, as I said to Mike, where is the common sense in what you're doing? What did they say?
I did make that point. And do you know what? I did actually feel a bit sorry for them. And I do think Mike Neville, one of my heroes, along with you guys and Mike Graham.
He's my hero too, yeah.
Absolutely. Oh, love you. Yeah. You're fantastic. You're the sort of guy that when I was a teenager, I'd be scared of, and quite rightly too. Do you know what I mean? We wouldn't have dared.
Proper copper. But you were saying about what the two coppers who called at your house.
I did feel a bit sorry for them.
But then you said, I remember you said last night that you said, well, you wouldn't be doing this if he was a Muslim. And
I did say that,
one of them warned you that was racist, right?
Yes, yeah. He retracted that fairly swiftly.
Okay. But let's try and get to the crux of this, though. What in essence, you said, where is the sense in this? This guy, my son. And what was their response? What did they say?
Well, they then went out. Remember, I said they then went out of the room and they went down into our driveway and spoke to their
supervisor. Yeah.
Who then said because they did say, having explained that he's severely autistic, blah, 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 all that, they said, we'll speak to our senior officer. So that's what they did. She said, he's still got to come in.
And then Steve, your husband, went to the police station, obviously.
He did. Yeah,
and was he getting the same kind of nonsense? Sorry, he's got to... So he was kept there all day being interviewed about this
All afternoon. This happened...
Hours on end then, yeah?
Yeah. They got...
and was Steve allowed to sit in with him?
He was,
okay,
yeah.
Well, that's one thing.
I wanted to go as well... but they said only one of us could go.
Okay.
And Steve thought I probably might end up in a cell myself if I went. So we took the wise decision. Let my husband, who, as you can imagine, is a very patient man.
Yeah, one member of the family is enough, isn't it? You don't want to all be under arrest,
Yeah. I wasn't in the mood for discussion, really. I just went into mother mode, and I just do want to say, I just want to make it absolutely clear, as an ex-English teacher and ex-head of year, I have never, ever made any excuse for any bad behaviour for any of my children, and that includes Oliver. Autism is not an excuse for bad behaviour, and if he's done anything wrong, we have dealt with it. We might have had to deal with it slightly differently because he's autistic, but he has been reprimanded and punished where appropriate. So I don't want people to go away thinking I'm trying to make an excuse for my son. What he did online was absolutely disgraceful and wrong, and we pulled him up on it.
Yeah, but you're quite right too. But it's essentially the same as saying some kid, a 10-year-old kid, has posted something stupid online. I mean, if you're going to say that is. Kids do things like that.
Of course they do.
So that's
and I, as a teacher, I dealt with it all the time, and I would say, look, you cannot do this, and this is why it's wrong. A, B, and C.
No,
and they still know that they're loved. They still know that they're valued. But what happened to Oliver was absolutely
couldn't agree with you.
Wrong.
Listen, did you take? You've got to get a lawyer. You know that you must get a lawyer because this case needs to be dropped. We'll talk to you after the show about that.
Can I just say what we're going to do? We did think about your advice, and I've spoken to one of my friends as a solicitor. What we're going to do is we've been told now by the Plymouth Police that we are going to get a letter letting them know their decision.
Okay.
Well, so what we decided to do is we're going to wait till we get that letter. I will, of course, be in touch with you and let you know. I'll send you a copy of the letter. Okay. If that's okay with you. Okay.
Now, Mike, this is what I think is going to happen in this case, which I think is almost as reprehensible as the arrest in the first place and what happened to poor Oliver. I suspect that in the end, the police will be persuaded that it's not worth pursuing this through the courts, and they will record it as a non-crime hate incident. And I think that Angie and her family should hire lawyers to make sure that the police do not do that. Your thoughts?
I agree, but I think it might be worse than that. I think they may claim that they've detected this crime and say that the poor man was unable to be interviewed or whatever else, or give an account because of his mental impairment. So it'd be worse still. But I absolutely agree that Angie and I wish her and her family well, that they should question this. They should find out. How are you recording this crime? Are you recording it as a non-crime hate incident, or are you claiming that you somehow detected a crime and their motive, and just to show their motives for doing this? But it just absolutely saddens me that the police are pursuing these matters, are wasting time writing letters about this. I feel sorry, as Angie does, about the officers who came round to the house, because they obviously had a bit of common sense, and then some kind of supervisors intervened, and that is absolute nonsense. So let's get the police back on the streets, arresting burglars, robbers, thieves and rapists. That's what we need as soon as possible.
One last point, Mike. Devon and Cornwall Police are not exactly, top of the league when it comes to brilliant constabularies. They're in a bit of trouble, aren't they?
Yes, as I said at the start, the two of the chief constables have been suspended. Her Majesty's Inspector of Constabulary report said that they were inadequate. Their investigation of crime was inadequate. And as I say, the trouble is with all this is it does drag down the hard-working officers who are, somebody's pulling a knife on them or a gun today. We need to remember there are good officers, but they are lions led by donkeys, Kevin. It's the worst. It really is bad at the moment.
Investigate some real crimes. Catch the bad guys, not people like Oliver. Last point to you, Angie. I'll just tell you, I don't know if you've noticed, but your phone call to me last night, we put it out on social media. It's had more than 1 million views.
Yes, Abby told me.
Yeah, yes. And it's the Twitter is on fire. And everybody saying what I'm saying and what Mike's saying and what you're saying, that this is just absolutely outrageous, and the police have got to get a grip. As I say, go out there, catch the bad guys, not people like your son putting silly tweets online. It's ridiculous. Listen, I'm going to have to go now, but Angie, we're going to keep in touch with you. You do have to get a lawyer, because you know what these cops are like. They'll run away with this, so you need to get a lawyer.
Can I just say, before we go, thank you, Kevin. Thank you, and thank you, Mike, so much.
Well, thank you. Thank you, Angie, and give our best to Oliver and Steve. Thank you very much.
He's just off to football training now, so...
Yeah, okay. and Mike, thanks very much, mate. That's Mike Neville there over in Spain, former Scotland Yard detective, and Angie Smith. Well, you know the story. Give us a call, 0344499 1000. We've got to go to break, in about 10 seconds, but just quickly, Pete, your thoughts? It's ridiculous.
It's absolutely ridiculous. I think it's disgusting, basically. I do not understand why we're even having this conversation. I don't even know what is going on. That is just utter nonsense, utter contemptible nonsense. Putting a family through that for what? When it seems to be a box tick exercise, it's just perverse. Yeah. I mean, like you said, this police station seems to be all over the place, and the entire institution of the police needs a complete shake-up, because it's not just the politicians, it's the people in the police itself running these areas that really need to just be shown the door. If we really are going to get control of this, they need to be shown the door and get some people in that actually want to catch some bad guys for a change.
Absolutely, Pete, well said. We're going to go to break now, and when we come back, happy birthday Brexit. 5 years since we voted to leave the EU. That next, stay tuned.
This is a court order, isn't it, that's been issued because of the coverage that you have done in Ukraine. And knowing you as I do, I imagine you probably won't affect you at all. You'll just continue to do what you've always done.
You cannot see this move by the Russian court as anything but an attempt to intimidate journalists like me who report on the conflict. And as a matter of principle, I will not be cowed, and I will go back to Ukraine, certainly, and I will continue to report on this war.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is talk.
Welcome back. Well, happy birthday. Get the bunting out. It is the 5th anniversary of the Brexit vote when the people of Britain made their democratic decision to leave the sclerotic old European Union. Now, Keir Starmer has pointedly refused to join in the celebrations if there are. Actually, there have been some celebration. Nigel Farage said, vote for me. Have a reform government and I will properly deliver Brexit. And Ed Davey has taken the opportunity to say that the Tories' leave deal has been a disaster. What are your thoughts, Pete? You see, the thing is, I'm not sure. You know, there were problems with Boris's eventual deal. I mean, the Northern Ireland thing is not good, but you know, give him some credit. I've got a lot of reservations about Boris Johnson, by the way, all that green crap. But he did get it over the line. Yeah. And I'm not quite sure I mean, it hasn't quite been the triumph some people thought it might be, but early days in terms of history.
Oh, God, yeah.
In terms of history. And I'm not quite sure it has been the disaster that all the opponents all the Remainers are trying to say. I mean, our economy, thanks to Labour, is not doing that well, but look at the main countries in the EU. Look at France, look at Germany, look at Spain and the minor countries. All of their economies are in the toilet.
Oh yeah.
So I still feel better that we're out of the EU, and there is that question of sovereignty. I mean, my objection really to being in the EU was, in effect, that allows people to govern our country that we didn't vote for.
Yeah.
You know, faceless bureaucrats in Brussels telling us, Great Britain, what to do that no one in Britain voted for. So it's about sovereignty. And it would have been nice if we'd have taken that concept and turned it into secure borders, but that hasn't happened. So, look, it's rough around the edges, but I don't think it's a disaster.
No, I happen to agree. I think I always try and separate the concept of Brexit and the execution of Brexit.
Yeah, good point.
I always try and separate those two things. I'm a firm Brexiteer. I worked on the Brexit campaign. I was a Brexiteer before Brexit was even a word. However, I will agree that it has been rocky, it has been bumpy, and my main objection to it is that a lot of people have refused to embrace Brexit from the business side of the world and, you know, actually kind of start to expand outside of Europe. We seem to still have this idea that we must go to Europe. Throughout, whether it be in politics, financial services, or any kind of manufacturing stuff, it's always Europe, 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 when actually the future is outside of Europe. And we never really took hold of that. We never really grasped that and ran with it, because I do agree with Nigel Farage on one thing he said today, is that too many people thought of it as damage limitation rather than opportunity to expand. Yeah. I do agree with him very firmly on that. Theresa May, to give her credit, she managed to hobble that together as the best that she could, but she had this firm idea of just get through it, and that was not what was needed. It needed a person who really did kind of see the bigger picture of Brexit. But I have to...
She was pretty disastrous.
She was, but I actually think she would have been a good Prime Minister at a different time. I think she was the wrong Prime Minister for that period.
I think she'd have been a very good chairman of the Maidenhead Planning Committee.
No, I always say that without Theresa May, I don't think you would have got Boris Johnson, and I don't think...
Well, that's probably true.
But what I mean by that is you wouldn't have got Brexit over the finish line. You needed the disaster of the Brexit years to prove that Parliament was against Brexit to then energise the voter base.
I think she was a terrible politician.
But, no, for me... obviously,
she was a terrible politician, scared of her own shadow.
No, she did become, in the end, she had bunker mentality by the end of it. But actually, to be fair, I did some work with her for a couple of years, and she was very on her brief. She knew what she was talking about, but
she was terrified to disturb the universe.
Yeah,
you know.
she was. She didn't really have that kind of aura, that kind of sense of I'm the Prime Minister.
No confidence.
No, yeah, that really got knocked out of her after the general election.
I mean, like a lot of us, but you know, she cried at the end, but a lot of us were feeling sorry for her.
The minute that happens, you're done.
Yeah, but
the minute that happens,
but when she kept going back to the Commons for this inevitable thrashing. I mean, it was tragic to see.
But that was the thing. You needed that thrashing. You needed to show people that Parliament was against Brexit to then give Boris the narrative to be able to go on to get the majority to get Brexit over the line. You needed that, I think. But
where do we? So we've got Brexit.
Yeah.
As you say, as I said, it's rough around the edges. There are things we still ought to do. What should we? As I say, I don't think it's the disaster.
No.
Our economy isn't doing that well. Labour are doing their best to ruin it, but actually, when the Tory government ended, our economy was on the up, doing a lot better than Germany and France. So Brexit hasn't destroyed us economically. No. I mean, with Keir Starmer, he'll probably sort that out. But seriously, what do we need to do, though, to arrive at the sunlit uplands that Boris promised us?
Honestly, it is deregulation. The great advantage was deregulation. We could have had the bonfire of the Quangos. We could have had all that red tape that was cut, and the Tories completely missed that. I think Jacob Rees-Mogg was supposed to be in charge of that as well, which was quite a shock. But, there's definitely that element of it. But again, it is that what we need to change is the mentality around how to operate. The future, we have to start looking 10, 20 years in the future. We got into this mentality of just get through the day, kick the can down the road. And throughout our politics and in the business world, we've got to start looking further afield and looking at where these emerging markets are. This is why I really liked the CTPPT treaty that we signed, because whilst that might not be huge now...
What does that stand for?
Do not ask me that question.
CPTTT.
So that is the one that is kind
Sounds like a children's TV channel.
It's the one that was signed while I think Rishi was Prime Minister. I can't remember which one. But it was about kind of the kind of emerging nations and about...
The Pacific
the Pacific one,
those were good.
So whilst he was only 2% now...
By the way, was it Liz Truss sealing all those deals? I think it was,
yeah.
When she was good,
Yeah, but the thing was, a lot of the ones that Liz Truss was signing were kind of rehashing of the ones we already had. But
there was extremely insignificant, so you can say, look, I signed this.
Yeah, but...
I've got a deal with Samoa.
But again, it's about building those relationships and actually using our soft power. That's one thing that Britain never takes advantage of. The royal family are great examples of it. Send them out to everywhere. That's what we should have been doing from day one. And also get the Commonwealth back involved. We have a ready-made trading partnership there, and we just don't take advantage of it.
And our massive problem right now, I've got to move on in a second, but our massive problem right now is Brexit. We are the one main country in Europe that isn't in the EU, and therefore an automatic potential close friend of America. I know you can talk about the special relationships or you're blue in the face, but we haven't really got one at the moment, trust me. But because we're not in the EU, we could do a great deal with America. But we have a government that still looks to the EU. We should be looking west across the Atlantic, not across the English Channel. And that is an opportunity that if we took it, the people of this country would see the massive advantages that Brexit could bring. But we're not taking it because Starmer just doesn't want to look to Washington.
No, Starmer operates in these kind of supranational organisations like the UN and the World Health Organization, the EU. He believes in the structure and the system because he's a bureaucrat. That's all he is. He's not a politician, he's a bureaucrat. And, he needs the structures and he believes in it, and he just cannot see the writing on the wall that everybody else can see that if you look, like you said, look at the European Union, look at the individual nations, the state of their economy, the state of unemployment, the state of standards of living has dropped and dropped and dropped. And yet most people in the UK don't know most things about this, so they keep saying, I've got to move abroad. I was like, have you looked at what it's like abroad? It's quite shocking, really.
I was telling you earlier off air that Andrew Neil wrote this, and it's a very good phrase. He said, this is the way the world goes. America innovates, China imitates, and Europe regulates. The people in the EU, all of those faceless bureaucrats in Brussels, they glory in this. They call the EU the world's great regulatory superpower. Now, regulations will destroy any superpower, will destroy any power. This is the problem with the EU. It is just a mass of red tape, and you can't get anything done. If you want a successful economy, the first thing you have to do is get rid of all the red tape. Keir Starmer and Rachel from Accounts are paying lip service to this. They won't Labour will not get rid of red tape. Red tape is what Labour and socialists are all about. That's our problem. The EU is about red tape. Keir Starmer loves red tape, and with red tape you're not going to get anywhere. Brexit should have delivered us from the hell of red tape, of European red tape. Instead, because we've got the Labour government, we're in it up to here. So we're not getting the advantages, but I think we could. With the right government, I think we could.
Yeah.
Your thoughts, please. Let me know. Brexit, has it been a disaster? There's a poll in The Independent today saying that most people now would change their decision. I'll guarantee you what the question on that poll was, by the pollster's question. I bet it was, excuse me, sir, they walked down the street. Just doing a poll here. Just how much of a disaster do you think Brexit has been? That's the way they will have framed that question. But anyway, what do you feel? What do you feel? Was Brexit a mistake? Is it still a good thing? How can we make it better? The advantages haven't been delivered. We know that. How can we deliver those advantages? Let me know. 0344 4991 1000. And when we come back, we'll have a little word about Kemi Badenoch. Anyone seen her lately? I haven't. 0344 499 1000. Stay where you are.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I'm with passionate Conservative Pete Barnes. Now, Kemi Badenoch, I've got my problems with her. Maybe we'll talk about her in a little while. But Priti Patel went on to the Sun's TV show, which we promote here on Talk, Harry Cole's Never Mind the Ballots. Harry Cole, of course, the Sun's brilliant political editor. And I think Priti Patel sort of exemplified a big problem with the Conservatives. Kemi Badenoch, to her credit, has said, look, we screwed up. We did make a mess of the migrant crisis, and we'll put things right. So at least she's conceding this. Now, Priti Patel, here's the reason she never got anywhere in the leadership race, because all Conservatives said, hang on, you were the Home Secretary, while all these people were piling in, talking your big game about we're going to send jet skis out into the Channel. And my favourite Priti Patel plan was the big boats with the huge nets. They were going to scoop the small boats out of the channel and onto the deck. So she was always talking that kind of tough game. Meanwhile, what we didn't know, she's letting in hundreds of thousands of migrants legally. And this, I think, sums up the problem for the Tories. She still won't take the blame for this catastrophe that was very deceitful for a start. The people didn't know. And she maintained to Harry, oh, yeah, no, we put in place legislation that allowed us to cherry-pick the best and the brightest. And Harry turned around and said, well, hang on a second, 1.2 million arrived last year, 728,000 of whom stayed here. Are you telling me, said Harry, that all 1.2 million of these people, migrants you allowed in, were the best and the brightest? And she just waffled a bit. But that, pretty should say we got it wrong.
Yeah.
If they don't admit that, they're going to be lost.
Oh, yeah. And like you said, Kemi has admitted it, and I think it's the right thing to do because, like you said, you just look like an idiot the more you continue to deny the reality. And I think that's Priti Patel's problem, is she's offered a But I have to admit that, I've been critical of the Conservatives on immigration from day one. I think they have been useless at it. But, I don't see anybody else coming out with a sensible plan. I really genuinely don't. This is the biggest problem.
Well, it's Kemi's chance to stick her head, a rare thing, above the parapet and actually come up with a plan. She said one more time this week when Keir Starmer refused to put a cap on this ongoing deluge of people, avalanche of migrants coming into the country. No, that wouldn't be the practical thing to do at the moment. Yes, it would. Yes, it would. Kemi should come up, give us a number. It's an open goal for them, but she won't do it. Anyway, here's Priti Patel talking to Harry on the current edition of Never Mind the Balance, which you can find on YouTube right now.
Would you like to apologise to all the people that voted Brexit for the fact that you misled them and saying we're going to take back control of our borders and then you threw them open and let in millions of people?
That is totally distortionary and that's not true. And to be quite frank, we made it quite clear it'd be people from the rest of the world, people with skills, based on our economy. And I think people should apologise for those who are saying that actually...
You would like an apology?
People in the pandemic came here, health and social care visas. What would have happened to our NHS? Are we now saying, are you and others saying we don't need those people in our NHS?
She's just it's ostrich stuff, isn't it? Head in the sand.
Oh, that right there is why you're right. She should never have been anywhere near leadership contention.
That's why she was the first out.
Yeah.
That's why she was the first.
As soon as I breathed a huge sigh of relief when she went out.
She's never going to do it. No. I mean, that was the problem for even Suella Braverman suffers from that problem.
And even James Cleverly as well.
Yeah,
there was quite a few former Home Secretaries kept running in that, and I was like, the easiest thing to attack you on is immigration.
By the way, I still can't see why, I still don't understand why it was the Tory Home Secretary, or Foreign Secretary, I think at the time, James Cleverly, who kicked off the Chagos nonsense. What was that about?
To be honest, I think that was more of just, I think they could kind of tidy it up rather than do what Keir Starmer has done.
Maybe he's taking it wrong.
That seems to be the case. But that did just come out of nowhere. But I have a feeling it was more sort this out and we'll deal with something that Britain wants dealing with. I had a feeling.
Yeah, let me ask the audience, give us a call. Can you forgive the Tories for, the migrant crisis that they presided over? It was them 14 years. OK, I agree. Keir and Cooper have taken up the mantle and made it worse, but it's the Tories' fault. Can you forgive them? Kemi Badenoch, to her credit, has admitted they screwed up, and she'll try and mend the bridges, as it were. But your thoughts? 03444991000. Just a quick point, because we've got to move on. We've had an incredibly volcanic 2 weeks of news. Big issues. Ruda Cabana, Keir's two-tier cover-up in Southport, the ONS prediction of 4.9 million people to take the population to 72.5 million by 2032, the Labour's growth disaster. The only thing I've heard from Kemi Badenoch is she's worried about academy schools. Oh, well, that's a perfectly valid thing to be worried about. But my God, why doesn't she start shouting about all these headline-hitting issues that the people are talking about?
Because the last thing Westminster needs is another loudmouth looking for attention grabbing. I don't understand why you consistently want everybody shouting at each other.
It's a media game, mate.
Yeah, but I tell you right now...
It's a media game.
Yeah, but I tell you now, the quiet vote, the quiet Conservative vote that did not switch to Reform are the ones Kevin's going after. And that's the point. You can have your loudmouths, lack of substance, no policies.
How did that quiet vote go for you at the last election?
Well, that's the point. They didn't turn out, but they didn't turn out for Reform either, did they? They didn't turn out for Reform either.
They got more MPs than you thought.
Well, one more.
And next election, they'll get a lot more.
Yeah, but they still won't get into government because they'll cause a hung parliament and keep Labour in power again.
No, they won't. They will get into power because they will do a deal with the Tories.
Do you think?
Yeah,
I don't know.
100%.
I don't know. Yeah, I mean, there'll be a lot of reformers very, very annoyed if they do that.
It doesn't matter. They'll get into power. They won't let Labour in. I mean, I sort of, I've had it with the Tories, but I wouldn't mind them doing a deal. I hope that the people of the right see the sense and say we can't...
Having known the people of the right, that's not going to happen. The worst thing of the right is ego. That's why nothing ever works, because they all want to be the centre stage. Yeah, that's the problem.
Tories got this amazing ability to snatch disaster from the jaws of triumph.
That's very
It's
true.
just incredible. Right, well, let's go to break now. And when we come back, we're going to talk about the Washington air crash tragedy and Donald Trump's take on it, which I think is interesting to say the least. That next, stay tuned.
This is a court order, isn't it, that's been issued because of the coverage that you have done in Ukraine. And knowing you as I do, I imagine you probably won't affect you at all. You'll just continue to do what you've always done.
You cannot see this move by the Russian court as anything but an attempt to intimidate journalists like me who report on the conflict. And as a matter of principle, I will not be cowed, and I will go back to Ukraine, certainly, and I will continue to report on this war.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about the Washington air crash. Terrible tragedy. I think the final death count is 67. As you know, a American Black Hawk helicopter, military helicopter, flew straight into an American Airlines passenger jet. They both went down into the Potomac River, and no survivors. Terrible tragedy. You could actually see it happen. Air traffic control. You could see the explosion and a howl of dismay from one of the controllers. Very dramatic, tragic stuff. Now, the president, Donald Trump, in his inimitable fashion, has come out and sort of torn up the rule books. Most world leaders in these circumstances would say, well, we have to wait for the investigation. Our thoughts are with the family. What a terrible tragedy. The nation is in mourning. Trump's come right out and said, I blame DEI. I blame diversity. And everybody's outraged. Oh, this isn't the time to do anything like that. Well, anyway, first of all, let's have a look at Donald with his take on what may have been the cause of this awful catastrophe.
The FAA's website states they include hearing, vision, missing extremities, partial paralysis, complete paralysis, epilepsy, severe intellectual disability, psychiatric disability, and dwarfism all qualify for the position of a controller of airplanes pouring into our country, pouring into a little spot, a little dot on the map, a little runway.
I'm trying to figure out how you can come to the conclusion right now that diversity had something to do with this crash.
Because I have common sense, okay? And unfortunately, a lot of people don't. We want brilliant people doing this. This is a major chess game at the
Now, the political and media establishment are absolutely outraged by this, because apparently there's a timetable. You're not allowed to say things like this at the beginning. Well, what he cited in the Federal Aviation Authority's recruitment policy is that stuff about, that they've been actively looking for people who are severely intellectually disabled, or if this is true, and they're looking for people, they've gone out of their way to look for people with disabilities, as I said last night, to employ people not for their abilities but for their disabilities, then I think he's got a point, and I can't understand, or I do understand, but I think it's ridiculous that you don't say that now, as if there's a rule book.
Yeah.
Well, Donald Trump is ripping up every rule book there is. I don't see a problem with what he's saying.
No, I don't at all. And I've often said that many people who kind of want to put minorities in these positions are setting them up for failure.
Yeah.
They're setting these people up to fail, and it is cruel. I actually think these kind of hiring diversity programs are intentionally cruel because, Donald Trump is perfectly correct. This is a very skilled job that you have to have.
Bloody hell. It's one of the most important jobs on the face of the planet.
It is a dot on the map. It is incredibly important. It's incredibly difficult, and they train and train and train. And yet, if you do not have the capabilities to do the job, I'm sorry, you shouldn't be doing the job, no matter how nice of a person you are or how nice of a person you want to be to hire them. You have to hire the best of the best. If it comes to light that they've passed over qualified candidates for lesser candidates,
this is what diversity is.
This is the big problem, because it's not just in aviation. I would remind people that this has happened in our British Armed Forces when they stopped people joining the RAF because they were white and they were over a certain height. This is a real problem about these hiring practices that are infected with this woke virus yet again. And it has to stop, because it is putting lives at risk. DEI, we've just seen now, will potentially put lives at risk and killed people.
Absolutely. Diversity, DEI, actually started in the 1960s with the best of intentions. And, the basic principles of DEI, I'm in favour of. Even I'm in favour of. No, but I'm in favour of. I'm sure you are as well, Pete. It was all employment, all areas of life, a level playing field. Everybody has the same opportunity, should be regarded as the same, regardless of colour, creed, race, class and everything. Now, that's a good thing. The trouble is we've gone so far down that road that is now there's a new form of prejudice, and that's a prejudice that, I don't know, about sort of middle-class, middle-aged white people. I mean, they're the last people, you know, who are not disabled. Yeah. They're the last. Look at the Los Angeles Fire Department. Exactly. You're telling me that the three greatest firefighters, the three people who are best qualified to run the Los Angeles Fire Department are three lesbians? You know, I'm not having a go at them. I mean, I'm sure they're very good fire officers, but you know what's going on there. Yeah. They've got the job because they're lesbians. That's ridiculous and wrong. And what's going on here, if what Trump is saying is right, the air traffic control, as I say, if accounts companies or, I don't know, paper producers or whatever, if they want to have these very strict DEI policies, who cares? A bit unfair, but if you want to do it, fine. But air traffic control, here's the deal. You only employ the best people for the job. If they happen to have one leg, fine. Yeah. But the best people, and what Donald Trump is suggesting, and I've got some sympathy with what he's saying, is they haven't been doing that.
Oh, I couldn't agree more. But it's interesting the point that you make here is that, you know, the person, if they are hired and happen to be part of a minority, people presume that the diversity higher. So again, you've separated, these policies separate people out. They're actually not inclusive in the slightest. And you know, I would say this again, your identity is not a qualifier for a job. Yeah. It is not. It doesn't matter whether you're gay. I speak as a person from a minority. It is not a qualifier. I don't care what your race is, anything like that. It is ridiculous, and it has to stop.
Yeah, I was watching Question Time last night, and all the panelists. It was disgusting what Donald Trump said. Disgusting. Why? Why? Just because he doesn't behave like other leaders, because he goes about things his own way. He said, you know, I'm supposed to, you know, I'm going to say this right now. Many people wouldn't. You know, so what? So let me know what you think. Was Donald Trump disgraceful to do this, to raise these questions? Let me know. 03444991000. We're going to change tack a little after the 9 o'clock, the 8 o'clock news. Hang on, wishing my life away again. And we're going to talk about cancel culture with one of the top PR gurus in all of the country, Mark Borkowski. So stick around for that. That's coming up after the news. Stay tuned.
Across the UK, DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. In a little while, Pete and I are going to discuss what I think is a disgraceful decision that there was going to be a Holocaust exhibition, like a display, I think in the main hall of Parliament as visitors arrived. They quite often have various art exhibitions and all that there. This was about the Holocaust, obviously 80th anniversary since the liberating of Auschwitz, and of course the Holocaust Memorial Day generally. And it's been turned down. It's been, the reason being, the Speaker of the House, Lindsay Hoyle, so Lindsay Hoyle has explained that the decision is it's too political. That's outrageous, isn't it? Recently, apparently, they had an exhibition for Palestine, but apparently Holocaust exhibition too political. Can't blame Lindsay Hoyle too much for this. He's just a mouthpiece for a decision by a parliamentary committee. But that parliamentary committee, I think, need their heads tested. They should hang their heads in shame. What a disgraceful decision. Sounds anti-Semitic to me. We'll talk about that. Pete and I will discuss this in 20 minutes or so. But in the meantime, Alex in Fulham has rang in about this, and we're going to talk to him as well. He lost 93 members of his family in the Holocaust, and he has got quite a lot to say about this. Alex, stay where you are. We'll talk to you in a little while. And the rest of you want to call in about that, but you know, this is not right. 03444991000. We'll be taking your calls generally in about 25 minutes or so. Before we get to that, let's talk about cancel culture. Are you a celebrity who fears you may be on the point of cancellation? Have you said something that has got you into a world of trouble? Have you been seen doing something that may destroy your career? Is the social media lynch mob after you? Well, help could be at hand, and my next guest is the man you need. He is PR guru Mark Borkowski. Welcome, Mark.
Good evening, Kevin.
Always good to have you on board, mate. Now, you have come up with a kind of interesting initiative, which is about celebrities. I mean, we've seen, I'll get your thoughts on this in just a little while, but we've seen two great cancellations just in the past couple of months. Before Christmas, of course, Greg Wallace, the MasterChef guy, you know, he was summarily cancelled in no uncertain manner. And Wyn Evans, the sort of Strictly contestant, he's going through that process right now. We know all about cancellation now. You know, sometimes I think, you know, perhaps some of this is sort of deserved. Other times I think it's way over the top, you know, where people behave slightly badly. I mean, Wyn Evans's crimes, we'll talk about this properly in a minute, are that he suggested a three-way sex session, and he used the term spit roast. Neither very, very nice. But I might suggest that, you know, is that enough to destroy a man's life and man's career for? But anyway, Mark, first of all, let's talk about your initiative. You'll come up with a kind of insurance scheme that might help celebrities in this predicament. Explain.
Not just celebrities, Kevin. This is not aimed purely at celebrities. It's aimed at academics. It's aimed at CEOs. It's aimed at anybody who, you know, finds themselves in the middle of a media storm. This is called Preempt. It is a insurance scheme backed by a Lloyd's firm called Samphire. It was created by a broker called Reputitan. This has been in the mix now. Look, I've tried to pull this together for many years now, and people said it couldn't be done. Over the last 18 months, it proves it can be done. And it's really for people who want a good night's sleep. I mean, you insure your health. I mean, if you have a heart attack, you insure your house, insure your car. show your contents. You show your art collection, Kevin, your well-known art collection. So the bottom line is to give people a good night's sleep, because what we found sometimes, by turning to our learned friends, the law, perhaps, is a little bit of a heavy stick. Sometimes it's a well-used sort of, but as you well know from your days in journalism, if you get hit with a legal letter, your first reaction is, maybe there's a bit more to this than just the smoke.
So, Mark, just to sort of cut through this, so people who took up Preempt, that's your scheme, you would pay a premium.
Yeah, you're evaluated. You're evaluated as you would for anything, and you pay a premium, and you've got that protection.
But the protection is that the first sign that you may be entering the dreaded cancellation process, because you've paid your premium. The insurance company sort of covers you, and in comes Bulkowski PR to prevent to
represent their interests, and to ensure that if there's they're defended, and it can, the power of PR is paid for. So and then that covers you for the crisis, and would hope that at least we've squared the circle and we've represented the interests accordingly.
It's a great idea, but in other words, normally, when I inevitably get cancelled, it's going to happen pretty damn soon, the way things are going. But seriously, also, of course, I couldn't afford your fees. But seriously, But I mean, all I'm saying,
you
Mark,
can afford the insurance, Kev.
No. That's exactly what I'm saying. That normally a celebrity or anybody who found themselves caught in this cancellation process would have to come to you and say, well, OK, how much are you going to charge me to, to crisis manage?
No, something simpler than that. I mean, the insurance company...
No, I know that. I'm just saying...
Pays for our fees immediately.
Look, listen to me, will you, Mark, for God's sake. No, seriously. That normally, in those circumstances, I just come to Bulkowski PR. But what you're saying is, I pay Preempt, and then as soon as the brown stuff hits the fan, your services are there, ready, paid for by the insurance policy, right?
That is correct. And also there's a sort of interesting pre-period to that, is that during this sort of valuation, of what the insurance is going to cost, or it could be that, people have a worry they don't need to worry about. And we can help them. For people, it's aimed for people who really have not involved themselves in the world of PR, who probably cherish their legacy, they cherish their privacy, and they probably don't think it happens to them. Too often people get sucked into these storms, and they have no way of actually understanding how to deal with it. And so this could involve a certain amount of media training beforehand. It could do an audit to the risks that they face, giving them some observations too about some of the things that lead to that problem, the odd remark that they make. We dealt with someone just before Christmas who got himself in all sorts of problems because he retweeted something. And that was deemed to be something that got him into trouble with the various professional bodies he represented. We helped out with that and aligned that and got him back into the places he should be. So a lot of it is also perhaps a quiet campaign that actually doesn't meet the full wrath of social media, because what it is now, it's those pile-ons. It's what people feel about a story, and the speed of which social media works. You're sucked into this sometimes because you're connected with somebody famous, or you're connected with a big institution that actually does the first thing, which is to get rid of you without considering your case. So
listen, Mark, I think this is a great idea, and it's very important that you stressed at the start of this conversation that it's not just celebrities who feel the wrath of cancel culture. I mean, you know, when you talk in terms of your premium, I think you have to assess how risky someone would be. I'd imagine that my premium will cost about, I don't know, about £1 million a week or something, because people like me, we dance on the edge of cancellation every single second. But to be serious, I mean, what would you have done last year, Mark? Was there any way to save Greg Wallace?
There was a way to help Greg Wallace, and I think I know his publicists who tried to help him. But there's no way.
Well, what was that? What was that way?
Well, that way was to persuade your client, to actually keep their mouth shut and go through due process, not take charge of the situation, not go in front of
middle-aged women of a certain age.
Don't go on Sunday morning and decide, I know what, I can sort this out. I'm going to give my interpretation of it and bark into a mobile phone and blame everybody except himself. Look, we all make mistakes, Kevin. You've made mistakes. I've made mistakes. Sometimes, what actually the greater wash one out there is some sort of humility to say, look, you know what, I've messed up here. I seek a little bit of comfort. I've made a bit of a mistake. That doesn't mean to say you have to apologise, but actually what people want to see is some form of contrition, and actually they go with it. They go with it and think, you know what, poor bloke. He should have, he's been badly treated. And these things sort of ripple away. But not if you double down on it, don't accept anything, and make matters worse by blaming the very audience that are going to make more noise about this, and you're going to generate an opinion about it. There's a way to work these situations, and sometimes it's complete silence, disappearing for a while, and actually letting the noise subside a bit, and then find a gentle way of coming back and explaining yourself.
What about Wyn Evans now, the Strictly...
I can't talk about that, Kevin, because I can't talk about that because, it is known that I'm giving him advice.
Oh, are you? I didn't know that.
Well, yeah, so I can't.
Why are we so sensitive about this nonsense now, though? I mean, I say nonsense. A lot of people take it seriously. Look, I know you can't talk about it, but let me explain his particular predicament. It's not a great thing that he did, but he suggested a three-way sex session with a Strictly presenter, and also was overheard to use the term spit roast. Now, that's not nice. It's ill-advised. You don't have to talk about that specific case, but you and I know, because we go back a few years, way too many years actually, but 25 years ago, that sort of thing, Greg Wallace's particular predicament as well, it would not have been, people would have just said, oh, idiot, shrugged their shoulders, and life would have gone on. Why have we become, you talk about this in the general sense, why have we become so sensitive about this kind of thing, this kind of behaviour?
I think it's a fact that we have a world dominated by the opinions shared on social media. We have, everybody's got a camera.
Social media. Yeah.
In the old days, that would be something that would be picked up by a national newspaper. It'll be contained within a national newspaper, and there'll be a debate inside that community, and we'd move on to the next story. Now it's splintered. It's halfway around the world. We're encouraging people to have opinions on things that are not quite factual, that aren't explained, and everybody. So we have a pile-on, and of course, this generates a lot of clickbait for the online titles, and we don't have considered journalists. We have battery farms of clickbait merchants who are sitting there, who are doing a shift, and they're expected to turn out X amount of stories within that shift. And there's not enough facts checking. There's not enough. Everybody piles on, and it is that pile on that creates a pressure that gives people huge.
So the difference, Mark. When I spoke of 25 years ago, you and I actually go back even further than that, for God's sake. But seriously, the thing that has made the world of difference, changed everything, is social media, right?
Well, it's unregulated platforms. If you say something, you will have Ofcom on your back within a nanosecond.
Yeah.
Someone can go. The problem with X and social media platforms and whatever, they're not governed by those bodies who can censor it. Ofcom have no control. IPSA have no control of what goes on.
With you. Yeah.
So therefore, anybody can say anything. So we've seen acceleration of conspiracy theories, and people can have an opinion. Now, look, they can go too far, and you take legal action. A lot of people don't have that sort of money to take people on, particularly high-profile people. And everybody knows that we're creating and giving away data that is being harvested by the internet titans. They're all there supporting Trump on the rally. There's a reason why you had all the big beasts of Silicon Valley there, because they know that that Trump is going to support them. And also Meta now declared they're not going to have fact checkers. Why don't they have fact checkers? They don't have to have them, and because that is the sort of freedom of the internet that allowed people running those platforms not to be responsible for the content and the opinions posted on those platforms.
I wouldn't mind fact checkers on social media if they weren't all left-wing extremists. That's your problem, but that's a different issue. And who checks the fact checkers? When they say fact checkers, as if that's the end of the line. Well, the fact checkers have fact it.
But
well,
Kevin,
I'll tell you,
how many years do you spend in America, and you know how American publications they check every last fact.
I know.
So therefore, the X and Twitter and the rest of it liberated that world of po-faced people who can't. You've got to get it right about what brand of coffee someone drinks in the morning.
Well, as you and I know, Mark, all good journalists must never let the facts get in the way of a good story. But anyway, Mark, look, I think it's a great idea, seriously, and congratulations on it. Preempt. Mark Borkowski PR company. He is the guru of London. Great idea, Mark. Thank you so much for your time. Mark Borkowski there, old mate of mine, as you might have noticed. Cancel culture, though, it is a scourge, isn't it?
It really is. And the one I would want to highlight is the case of Alex Rogers, who was a 20-year-old student who committed suicide because of cancel culture on university campuses. You know, this stuff has real-life consequences. It's not just words on Twitter. You know, we talk about, the police going after nonsense. Some of it has an effect. And, when a 20-year-old is killing himself because he's been ostracised because of this, because of cancel culture, we do have to look at ourselves as a society and say, what are we doing? And I don't get me wrong, certain people, you go beyond the pale, off you go. But I always go back to what Jimmy Carr always said. He said he's already made the joke that's got him cancelled, so he might as well double down on it.
And also Jimmy Carr, he makes so much money.
It doesn't really matter to him.
They call it F-off money, if you know what I mean. But Mark makes a good point. I was struggling. I don't know why. I'm so stupid sometimes. What has changed since the old days? Social media.
Social media, it's the direct access you have to people, and it's the spread of information so quickly. Like you said, it used to be contained, and that's the real difference. Now it is everywhere. And I do think he's made a really good point about people having opinions on stuff you wouldn't normally have an opinion on. Like how many people are interested in Meghan and Harry now, for example, who 30 years ago, 40 years ago wouldn't have cared less, really.
And the pylon, it's like everybody. It sort of exposes something rather nasty about people, really. They see someone in trouble, they see a million tweets saying you awful person and all that, and they want to get involved. They want to pile on
too. They forget there's a person at the other end of the Twitter account.
I mean, as I say, nobody condones what Wynne Evans has done and said. But the way it's being reported, so he suggested a 3-way sex session with a presenter and someone else. That's a horrible, sexist thing to do. Sort of,
it's just a bit crass.
Anachronistic. Crass. That's what it is. And he used the term spit roast, which is extremely unpleasant. But the way it's being reported, do you think he raped a baby?
Yeah, I have to admit, I didn't really know the details of it. I just saw the headline. I was like, what has he done? And then, as you read it, I don't always say, is that it? But in the sense of proportionality, I think we've lost all of it now.
Yeah, we've become very prudish, haven't we?
I told you,
Victorian outrage.
We're in a new,
you did what? You know,
we're in a new era of Puritanism. People don't drink as much, they don't party as much, they don't say what they want to, like they used to. You know, we really have reverted back to a sense of Puritanism, and I don't particularly like it very much, if I'm being honest.
Yeah, well, that's why people like you and I, Pete, should take a bow for keeping up heavy drinking.
Yes, agreed.
You know, in order to keep a sense of balance. You know, but seriously, actually, I don't drink that much these days. I don't know what's wrong with me. Used to. Right, listen, Alex in Fulham is waiting, but Alex, we're going to go to break now. And Pete and I'll we'll put this story about the Parliamentary Holocaust exhibition into context, and then we're going to speak to Alex in Fulham, who lost 93 members of his family in the Holocaust, and I suspect he has some very strong things to say about this. So we're going to break now and come back in just a second.
A court order, isn't it, that's been issued because of the coverage that you have done in Ukraine. And knowing you as I do, I imagine you probably won't affect you at all. You'll just continue to do what you've always done.
You cannot see this move by the Russian court as anything but an attempt to intimidate journalists like me who report on the conflict. And as a matter of principle, I will not be cowed, and I will go back to Ukraine, certainly, and will continue to report on this war.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Let's talk about this Holocaust exhibition that was proposed for the House of Parliament in the big entrance hall, I do believe, where the public and indeed MPs, they all walk through before you get to the kind of business area or the Commons, etc. Massive hall it is, by the way, echoing your way through it. You can hear footsteps from about 400 yards away. But the exhibition, the installation is called The Vicious Circle. It's created by a guy called Mark Cave. And he's from the National Holocaust Centre and Museum, and it tells the story of anti-Jewish pogroms since the anti-Jewish pogroms from Kristallnacht in 1938, Baghdad 1941, and then October the 7th, 2023. So that's in there as well. So this was proposed for Parliament. Anyway, apparently the speakers of the houses, the House of Commons and the House of Lords, Sir Lindsay Hoyle, of course, is the Speaker of the Commons. They're advised by this committee. A committee sits and makes these kind of decisions for them. Anyway, Lindsay Hoyle, to be fair to him, was disappointed to announce that the committee's decision was that this exhibition could not happen because, and I quote, "It's too political." This is on the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz. This is just as we mark Holocaust Memorial Day every year. The greatest crime ever committed in the history of humanity, the extermination of 6 million people, nearly all of them Jews, but also obviously some Romani gypsies and also homosexuals, but by and large, nearly all Jewish people. So in essence, 6 million Jewish people exterminated by the Nazis. You would have thought, no-brainer. Of course this exhibition goes out. In July, indeed, the Palestine Solidarity Campaign was allowed a stall in Westminster Hall where this exhibition was going to go. So the Palestine Solidarity Campaign got an exhibition, or at least a stall there, but not this Holocaust exhibition. This is a disgusting decision, isn't it?
It's absolutely foul. It's foul. And like you said, on the anniversary of such an important event in human history, I think it's just not only tone deaf, but it's such a politically motivated decision. So the committee is the Westminster Hall Advisory Group, and the reason that it's important, like you said, to stress that Lindsay Hoyle, the Lord Speaker, the Lord Great Speaker, and the Lord Chamberlain, so that's the Speaker of the House of Lords and the kind of the highest lawman in the country, they're not involved in this. So they got basically pushed back.
They just have to say what the committee decides
at a really, really early stage. And it's right that Lindsay Hoyle has asked, well, what on earth has gone on? Because the exhibition is really important because it shows that this stuff is still happening today. On the streets of London, we've had people shouting anti-Semitic marches, we've had Nazi flags flying, we've had so much happen to the Jewish community in the last 2 to 3 years now, and if not longer, of course. And, this for Parliament, our Parliament, to knock this back is just it's just spitting in the Jewish community's face. It really is. And there are no words to describe just how wrong this is.
Dare I say, it strikes me this is an anti-Semitic decision. If you're going to allow Palestine, a Palestinian feature in the Great Westminster Hall, you should allow this, surely. Eric Pickles, Lord Pickles, now told Times Radio, considering the timing of it, that we have just commemorated the 80th anniversary of the liberation of concentration camps put by Nazi Germany. I was frankly astounded, he went on to say, dealing with the question of anti-Semitism. I mean, after all, Westminster Hall is where Churchill laid in state. Westminster Hall is where he received many honours. There was perhaps no greater fighter against anti-Semitism than Churchill. He would be appalled by this decision. Well, frankly, we all are. I think all decent people. More than appalled. I'm just disgusted by it. Disgusted. Now, he's been waiting a long time, but I'm really pleased that he phoned in. Our next caller lost 93 members of his family to the Holocaust. Welcome to the show, Alex in Fulham. Alex, you're a female, of course. I just called you he, didn't I? Alex, thank you for calling in. Well, first of all, tell us about your family.
Well, first of all, Kevin, I would just like to say thank you to you and your team for bringing this devastating news to air. I would like to say also how much I appreciate you and your team. talkTV is one of just, you are sublime. So thank you very much for being who you are.
Thank you. But I think me and Pete, we're just expressing a human emotion here. I'm just disgusted by this.
I'm so grateful. I lost 93 members of my family, and I'm grateful to this day to be alive. That I feel, sorry, this is really emotional for me because, I still have my grandfather's Star of David's that the Germans slapped on him at the age of 14.
My God.
14. Yes, and it's a story that will take longer than I have time on air, but Kevin, I'd love to tell you about it. If you feel like sharing it afterwards, you're more than welcome.
Well, I'd love to talk to you about it, but another time, Alex, definitely.
I know.
We'll do a special slot on it. We'll do a special slot on it, but we can't do it right now. I promise you we'll do that. But just try to. Articulate what you feel about this decision that Parliament, the Great Hall of Westminster, has been banned from this very moving exhibition revealing the horrors of anti-Semitism, pogroms against the Jews. What are your feelings?
Well, I think it's a disgrace not only to the 6.6 million people who lost their lives during World War II and the mass genocide on Jews, but also to the fighters and the people who fought for justice, such as Winston Churchill himself, and to all of our military, our English military, who gave their lives to protect and to liberate these horrific death camps. And I think that is an absolute disgrace that Parliament has made this decision, considering they weren't even alive at that time.
Don't you think, Alex? I'm afraid I smell the vile aroma of anti-Semitism here. Do you?
Oh, absolutely. And what's even worse is considering everything that is going on in this world right now, especially with regards to the war in between Palestine and Israel, and what Elon Musk just did in his, his arm movement, shall we say. That was just mentioned.
Well, to be fair, I think that's debatable. I'm not sure that he meant to do a Nazi salute. There's a heart salute thing. I mean, to be fair, he said it wasn't Nazi, but I mean, but let's not get sidetracked with Elon Musk. What is it a week like we've just been through, when it's Holocaust Memorial, the 80th anniversary of the liberation of Auschwitz? What is it like for someone like you who lost so many relatives in that horror?
Well, living in this life of losing 93 members of my family to the Holocaust, to Nazis, it's horrific. I've already been attacked twice on my own home street here in Fulham, just because I'm Jewish. And there's no police, there's no one to protect me, there's no one to look out for me. So it's like the Holocaust all over again, but in modern day world. And, at the end of the day, what is it to be me, to live my life of losing 93 members of my family who I will never know their ancestors? I'll never know my cousins ever again. It's horrific.
90. Were any of them victims of Auschwitz?
Yes, most of them. They were also systematically gunned down and hunted like dogs.
I don't know what to say, Alex. I don't know what to say, Alex. Except, my sympathies, which that doesn't sound enough. Doesn't sound enough, does it? Commiserations. I mean, that's the wrong thing, isn't it? I mean, that's the thing about the Holocaust. When you try to talk about it, it's almost beyond words, isn't it?
Well, it is beyond words, and the fact that they are making it like no longer in existence. I mean, well, then let's just make the Knights Templar, the Crusades, non-existent as well.
Yeah, well, listen, know this, Alex. We stand with you, Foursquare, and we stand with Israel. We still do. So, Alex, listen, I mean that. We'll get you on and we'll do a proper section on this, because it is a story that we should keep telling. We must never forget the Holocaust. That is why the only good thing about Auschwitz is it's still there, and it reminds us of just how depraved and how evil humanity can become if we don't check it. So listen, thank you very much for your call, and stay strong, eh? That's Alex in Fulham. That's why that is a disgusting decision that's been made in Parliament today. We're going to go to break now, and we'll resume the show and take some calls on all the other big stories of the day. So that next, stay tuned.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. I got a text from a couple of texts here. This is from Brino. He said, I'd vote for Trump if I could. And he is right about DEI, but his inclusion of dwarfism after the recent aviation accident in the USA was, in my view, unnecessary. Funny enough, I was just discussing that with Pete Barnes off air. I'm with him in theory. I mean, I don't see why people with dwarfism couldn't be air traffic controllers, but it's just the whole principle, isn't it, Pete?
Yeah, definitely.
Not as I beautifully put it, if I say so myself, but just employing people not on the basis of their abilities but their disabilities. So you prioritise whether or not they're, I don't know, they're disabled or mentally impaired or whatever, over their actual abilities. So you're not going to get the best people for the job in that respect. As Donald Trump put it, that they put politics ahead of human safety. That political recruitment policies were not about getting the best people. They were about getting, in their view, the right type of people. Well, I think he's right there. I think, but anyway, we agree with you, Brian. It wasn't necessary to bring dwarfism in it, but that's Trump for you. Dorothy, great show as always, Kevin. Thank you, Dorothy. I love read those bits.
Yeah.
Great, so, well, thanks very much. Yeah, well, you know, what can I say? Seriously. Thank you, Dorothy. She says, I am flabbergasted by the denial of the Holocaust memorial, yet pro-Palestinian protesters are allowed. I want to know their reasons and their excuses for this decision. I am shocked beyond belief. Yeah, I want to know why they decided this, Dorothy. It's a very, very good point. We better go to the phones now, shall we? Let's first talk to Kirsten in West London. Hi, Kirsten.
Hi, Kevin. How are you?
Yeah, I'm very well. You wanted to talk about Angie's case, yeah?
Yes, I was really enraged when you had her on.
Yeah.
I can't believe that they're doing that to her and her son, who's mentally impaired, and they have that counsellor whose trial is not going to be until August next year.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Kirsten, I mean, it's just... I mean, apart from there's a lack of humanity in this. You know, this Oliver, by all accounts, a lovely, happy guy. But, you know, he's mentally impaired. I don't know what
but that's the thing.
He's a child in a man's body. He's got the mental age of a 10-year-old. The parents, Angie and Steve, said to the coppers, look, come on. You know, that's what you'd say, is it? Come on. And yet, I think they saw the point, to be fair to the coppers who called, phoned their supervisor at Plymouth, Nick, and that supervisor said, you've got to bring him in. You know, this is what enrages me. There's a lack of humanity in that, but also, worse than that, there's no common sense there, is there?
No common sense whatsoever, and that's the problem with, you know, my case trying to come to the UK legally with my husband.
Yeah, sure. Yeah.
And but then they let people who they have no idea who they are in.
Yeah.
So
yeah, that's right. Yeah, that's right. Yeah. Well, I think I said to you before. I think I said to you before, Kirsten. What you're going to do with your husband is get him over to Calais, stick him on a small boat, and then he'll come over here. And before you know where you are, you'll be living in a lovely 4-star hotel with free everything. So there's my plan for you.
Yeah. The one thing I would just say really quickly on this case is, what is the value in this proceeding? What are we hoping to get?
Exactly
from it?
right.
That
it's
is
a
the
very
bit
good
I cannot
question.
quantify.
It's a really good
I could get it if this person had 100,000 followers, had a huge influence. Yeah, I'm going to imagine that this kid doesn't have that. So what is the value in this? What do the police believe that they're succeeding in doing? No one has explained this to me.
It's automatism, isn't it? I mean, it's just like they're acting like machines. Says here we have to. It's computer says.
Yeah.
We've got to arrest this man. Computer says we've got to interrogate him. No common sense, no humanity. With you, Kirsten, all the way. Thank you for a very good call. Call me again. Let's go to break now, and when we come back, we'll take some more calls.
This is a court order, isn't it, that's been issued because of the coverage that you have done in Ukraine. And knowing you as I do, I imagine you probably won't affect you at all. You'll just continue to do what you've always done.
You cannot see this move by the Russian court as anything but an attempt to intimidate journalists like me who report on the conflict. And as a matter of principle, I will not be cowed, and I will go back to Ukraine, certainly, and will continue to report on this war.
Across the UK, on DAB+, on YouTube, on your mobile, and on your side. This is Talk.
Welcome back. Now I'm going to play you now a little taster of what you can enjoy in full at 9 p.m. It is, of course, my brilliant TV show, What Just Happened. That starts at 9 and runs till 10. You can watch it live, and then it becomes totally available all week on YouTube tomorrow morning around about 9:30, 10 o'clock, something like that. So you can cherry pick exactly when you want to watch it. But if you want to watch it tonight, as I always say, don't worry. If you don't want to watch it on screen, if you want to avoid my ugly mug, never a bad idea, you can listen to it on the radio because it is totally radio friendly, but it's quite fun if you want to watch it as well, because we have some funny adverts and things like that as well. So take your pick, whatever you want to do. But here's a little taster of tonight's fantastic edition of What Just Happened. To get a photo of.
No.
There's always a camera handy when she does nice things, isn't there?
There'll always be photographed. They're two of the most recognised. They're two of the most recognisable people on the planet.
Particularly when she takes a cameraman with her.
Yeah, they were among a sea of people. They brought a Netflix crew with them.
Did they?
Yeah, they did.
Well, they took a Netflix crew.
I'll tell you what. There you go, another reasonable discussion on what just happened. That, of course, is Samara Gill, who I'm looking at right now. She's my producer here as well. And Simon London, who is the village idiot. No, he's not. He's the guy that we argue with. He's the woke one, and he's a big fan of Harry and Meghan. Me and Samara, not so much. So lots of that, lots of other stuff as well, lots of Donald Trump. We have a little bit of fun at the expense of Selena Gomez, you know, so distraught about the deportations of her fellow Latinos. Was it? That's my Selena Gomez impression. Uncanny, I'm sure you agree. Right, let's go back to the phones, shall we? Let's talk to Andy in Hull. Andy, you pointed out something that I've forgotten. It's actually 9 years since we had the vote. We only finally got it across the line 4 years after we voted for it. In itself, a real disgrace, a real affront to democracy, wasn't it?
Exactly. That's what I was just going to say. When it voted, it took them 4 years to get over the line. And what line did we get over? We didn't get over a real Brexit, did we?
No.
We didn't.
Well, I think, you know, I mean, compared with some of the offerings we were handed before during Theresa May's turbulent times, you know, Boris Johnson, you know, with an 80-seat majority, did manage to get it mostly over the line. It's pretty surprising with an 80-seat majority he didn't get it all over. But there were those problems with the Northern Ireland border that still exist. But yeah, it really was I mean, I'm with Pete Barnes, Andy, stay where you are. You know, now that Pete's reminded us, or rather Andy's reminded us, it was a disgrace, wasn't it? That the people, they said, right, you can have a referendum. You, the people, can decide. You know, no boundaries, no constituencies, just a flat-out vote. Do you want to leave the EU or you don't? And we, the government, will abide by the decision. Oh! you've decided to leave. Well, we're not sure about that.
Yeah, do you know what was always interesting about that was that the government would abide by the decision, because referendums are usually advisory, so they don't usually legally.
Good point,
I have to admit that really did shock us. And that was all the Remain campaign. They messed up massively on that. But I will admit, I think it was a great betrayal of democracy. It showed just how razor thin our democracy really is. And let's not forget that our Prime Minister right now campaigned for us to ignore that referendum. Let us not forget that the Prime Minister of this nation campaigned for a second referendum, and he does not believe in sovereignty. He does not believe in the United Kingdom as a great nation, and he wants to diminish that. And we're seeing that. I think we're seeing the kind of the nastiness that Keir Starmer has about that, and the kind of contempt he has for the people that did vote for Brexit.
Absolutely.
You know, it's really important that we never forget that.
Yeah, absolutely. My take on it, Andy, is this. The Brexit vote, combined with the increasing power of social media, has kind of shocked the political establishment into understanding that the people now have power. So what shocked them about the Brexit decision was that the political establishment, you know, the body politic in Westminster had already decided, don't worry, we can easily corral the sheep into voting to remain. They didn't get the result they wanted. They fought tooth and nail to stop what the people had voted for. They, in the end, failed. It took, 2 general elections, but in the end, they failed. And even now, they struggle with the idea that the people actually do have more power than they used to. And these politicians, they want to ignore us. They want to get on with their own agendas. And they're learning late in life that isn't going to wash anymore. Do you agree with that, Andy?
Yeah, I do. And the point I wanted to make...
Yeah, please do. Go ahead.
There's all the Ramonas saying that Brexit's never worked. No, it's never worked because it's never been implemented properly.
Absolutely.
A lot of the Ramonas, and call me right wing, whatever you want to call me, a lot of the Brexiteers, a lot of people who voted Brexit wanted to take control of the borders. Now, have we taken control of the borders? From our point, when we left the EU, those boats coming across are an EU problem. They're not our problem anymore. So when all the EU countries are taking these migrants in and they get to the French border, when they start coming across in these small boats, they should be taken back across and we should say to France, we're not part of the EU. This EU problem is yours. You sort the problem out with all your cronies in the EU. We're not part of it anymore. We've chose to come out of it.
Yeah.
That's where I sit.
I'll tell you what I think, Andy. I'm with you. I mean, let's see what Pete thinks. What I think is we need a bit of Trumpism here. We need to start to rip up the rule book. Never mind niceties. Just say, you know what? You French, we've got, you know, people say £500 million. We've given them a lot more than that. Something like £750 million we've given that lot to patrol their beaches and stop the boats leaving. They don't make very much effort. They don't want these migrants. They love to wave them goodbye. I just think we should, you know, get them in the middle of the channel, take them back, and if the French don't like it, to hell with them. Just like Trump would have done. What do you reckon?
Well, the one thing I would say is we took back control and gave it to the most incompetent people I think I've ever met in my life. You know, that's the great thing about Brexit, is it showed actually just how incompetent the Westminster system actually is. You know, and I always look back to what you were saying about how there's the new power of people. It's because Dominic Cummings found 3 million people that had never voted before, and he energised a group of people to turn out, and it shocked Westminster. It absolutely sent fireworks through it. But I tell you now, when dealing with the small boats thing is a lot bigger than the EU, and there's loads of things we could go into. But I think it is the perfect example of us not taking advantage of the Brexit situation. And you are right. We need a bit of Trumpism. We need a bit of this is what we're doing now. We're playing nice with an institution that has never played nice with us.
Do you know what they always say, Andy? The political establishment. They always say when people like me and you you, I suspect, Andy, and to an extent, Pete, when we say, well, look, when they turn up on our shores, they've broken our laws, they've come over on illegal votes, arrest them, detain them, deport them. All the Ramonas go, it's a lot more complex than that. It's very, very complex, and also it just wouldn't be practical to do that. Well, Donald Trump is basically saying it's not very complex. Let's just do it, eh? What do you reckon, Andy?
If you enter a country illegally, you're illegal. You're a criminal.
Exactly right. They're criminals. They go, illegal migrants are not criminals. Yes, they are. They broke our laws. I'm sick of it. I'm with Trump on this. Andy, listen, really good call. Got to move on, but please call me again. It was good to talk to you. Let's quickly get Stephen in London on. And Stephen, you want to talk about Brexit as well? What would you like to say?
Hi, Kevin and Peter. Yeah, one of the main benefits of leaving the EU is that the EU imposes high tariffs on cheap products coming from countries outside of the EU. That means that businesses within the EU can charge consumers in the EU higher prices. So now we're out of the EU, we can benefit from getting the cheaper products from countries outside of the EU and the rest of the world.
But do you think we're doing that to any great effect at the moment, Stephen? Because it doesn't seem to me that we are. I mean, you're citing what should be one of the great advantages of Brexit. Another advantage, as Pete and I discussed earlier, would be we could forge a great trading deal with America, but we have a government that's obsessed with Brussels and doesn't really like Washington. So all of the potential advantages of Brexit, this country, for some reason, has never seized.
Well, companies which sell to any companies in the UK can now buy cheaper products from countries outside of the EU. So it's up to the companies to do that. I don't know if there's any government regulation preventing companies from buying stuff from countries outside the EU.
There'll be regulations. Yeah. We've got a Labour government. Don't worry, there'll be regulations somewhere. Stephen, very good point, though. Thank you for calling. I've got to move on, but please call me again. And very quickly, because it's him, let's finish the show with Tarquin in London. Hi, Tarquin.
Kevin, how are you, my friend?
I'm very, very well.
I just heard you say earlier on, quite a long time ago now, but I had to get my 2 pennies in on where you were mentioning about, how the Conservatives performed historically with Brexit and all. Quite honestly, I think, Kevin, they're finished. They're a busted flush. They're just not.
Tarquin, so we've got to bring Pete Barnes. Tarquin says that the Tories are finished. Do you think they're finished, Pete?
Absolutely not.
Oh, he doesn't. He doesn't think they're finished, Tarquin.
I mean, people have said this every year since about 2010. So you might be right, but I tell you now, the law of averages tells us that they're not.
But I bet you, Tarquin, you're a former Tory voter and you won't vote for them again, right?
Correct.
Yeah, I hear that story. I mean, literally 50 times a day from our listeners. So, good luck, Pete. But I do think the tide is turning against you. Hey, Tarquin, I'm letting you finish the week. So one last point, because we're going to go.
I'd just like to say, ladies and gentlemen, you are listening to the greatest UK radio broadcaster ever invented, Mr. Kevin O'Sullivan.
Well, go on.